I'm back. I'm back in the Rockies, I'm back in Banff. And I'm here today to try and get a photograph that I've had in mind for a little while. So I thought today is the day to see if it actually works. So the plan is to head on up here. This is Cascade Falls. If you do want to know more about this location, this is actually included in my Banff photography location guide. So if you want to support the channel or get some amazing pictures yourself whilst you're in Banff, go and take a look at that and give that a download. There's over 50 locations and compositions in there for you. But yeah, a little hike up there I think is the way to start the day, and we'll scope out to see if this composition works. I'm hoping the kind of stars align later on tonight. And hopefully if it does, we'll come back later and shoot it, but let's head on up. Now, you might have noticed some of those avalanche warning signs on the way up that I walked past. And there's good reason for that. Obviously, this waterfall comes from snowmelt. So up high, there is obviously some kind of snowdrift or snowbank that's melting and producing the waterfall. So there's good reason for that avalanche warning. Early in the season, this can be quite a dangerous spot. However, on the drive in, you can kind of see the whole waterfall and see all the way up. And I could see all of those spots that could have been a risk today are fully melted. So the snow is coming from much higher up in an area that's not really a danger to me this evening. So I've decided it's okay to go ahead with this. And you might notice here as well that the waterfall is kind of in steps. So it's relatively easy to walk up to the different step levels. And what I need to do is find a good spot where I can get waterfall in the foreground and then Mount Rundle here in the background. And then hopefully maybe even some of the kind of freeway in there as well. Later on in the night, hopefully we'll get some light streaks running up and down that freeway. So just need to search a little bit higher up and see if I can find the composition for later on. So I feel like this little spot here could be an option for me. I'm on kind of the first step up, so only about a 1 minute walk from the bottom of the waterfall. But you've got this nice long flowing river just down here, and it does point in the kind of the right direction. However, the water's quite smooth here, and I think what I'd really like to have is kind of a cascade in the front or some running water where I can get some really nice movement. So I need a little bit of white water. You know, ideally something like this would be fantastic, but that's not a great place to shoot from. But yeah, there's some potential here, so I'll keep this one in mind, but I'll head on up just a little bit further. Now, don't worry, there is a less precarious way you can get up here, and that's the route I'm going to be taking later on. You can just walk on around the side, but I mean, what's the fun in that? So I think this is exactly what I'm looking for. I think the composition from down there is probably going to work for me tonight. I don't really want to risk going any higher up because I know this waterfall, the higher you go, the kind of sketchier it becomes. Sections of this are actually used as a multi-pitch climbing route, like a low graded one, but still I don't want to be climbing anything like that in the dark later on. So I think this is the spot I'm going to be using for later on tonight. But the reason I'm scoping this out now is from my calculations, later on tonight, if the clouds clear, which hopefully they will, at around midnight to 1 AM, the Milky Way core should sit above Mount Rundle just over here as well. So what I'm really hoping for is running water, waterfalls in the foreground, some light streaks in the road, Mount Rundle in the background, and then the Milky Way core in the sky. And I think if I can pull that off, that's going to be pretty epic. I'm going to set up for a test shot now, whilst the light's looking quite nice on Rundle behind me here. I'm actually going to use tonight, I'm going to use my old 60 and this Sigma 24mm 1.4. Now the 60 is great for this astro stuff, low light, it's really good, it's as good as this R6. But I'm a little bit restricted in regards to focal lengths because realistically my 24mm Sigma here is really the only lens I have that's fast enough to capture the stars later on tonight. So 24mm is going to be what I'm working with. I think I can get that all in and I can set that up as a single frame composition, but I probably will also try some panorama stacks as well, maybe like a vertical panorama to see what I can get in. But we'll try a few different things later on depending on what happens. But let's set up a test shot. Right, let me show you what I've got here. And apologies for the audio, obviously I'm stood right next to a waterfall. Pretty hard to avoid when you want to photograph a waterfall, but hopefully you can hear me okay. But yeah, let me show you what I have. So you might just about be able to see here on the back of the camera. I'll brighten it up a little bit for you. I've gone like really low down to the water here, hoping I can get the water running right from the front of frame here, all the way into the foreground. I should get those light streaks here, and then if I darken that up again here as well, should just about be able to see Mount Rundle in the background there. And then hopefully we'll get the Milky Way core sat around here somewhere. I think I have that dialed in for later on. Pretty happy with that composition and the fact that I can fit it all into one 24mm frame. I'm going to have to focus stack that quite a bit, probably like 4 or 5 focus stack frames at least. So having it all in one frame does make that quite a lot easier. And it's probably going to be a multitude of exposures, longer ones for the sky, shorter ones for the foreground, but we'll kind of play with that a little bit later on. But as you might be able to see behind me now, the cloud is clearing. There's almost nothing. By 12 o'clock there's meant to be nothing at all, so fingers crossed. And I've been checking photo pills. That's the app I've been using to check if the stars are going to be in the right direction. And they actually have like a function called Night AR, or Night Augmented Reality. So what you can do with that is open up your location, put on Night AR, and you can see here there's this kind of overlay. It uses the camera on your phone and puts an overlay of what the night sky is going to do. So based on this, yeah, by hopefully midnight, the Milky Way will be sat just over the right-hand side of Rundle. So this could very well work. I'm not going to wait up there all night. It's about 9 o'clock now, and I don't think I need to shoot the Milky Way until probably 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And there's a couple of reasons why I'm not going to wait up there. One, because honestly I'll get pretty bored. And two, there are loads of mosquitoes around. You can't really win in the Canadian Rockies. It's -30 all winter, and then there are mosquitoes around all summer. And I don't actually have a long sleeve shirt with me. I have one back down at the car. It's only about a 10-15 minute walk anyway, so I'm going to head back down, grab a shirt for later on, and then hike back up here towards Blue Hour, probably around 10 or 10:30, so probably have an hour back down there. And then hopefully we can start shooting and everything will align. Right, it is 10 o'clock. I'm a little bit more mosquito proof. It's time to head on back up. Look, getting some really nice pink sky actually just above here. I tell you what, this walk feels a lot harder the second time round. So the first thing to do is to try and set up the same composition that I had earlier. I always find that's an almost impossible task when you find a composition that you like earlier on in the day when scouting. You can never quite match it later on. But we will do our best. Now I think that's pretty darn close to what I had it at before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fully lock off the tripod nice and tight in the hope that nothing moves throughout the night. And then I'm actually going to shoot the foreground whilst there's still a little bit of light. Just because it is so close to camera, I think I'm going to be better off realistically shooting that at a higher f-stop, like f8, f11, and only doing like 2 or 3 focus stacks on the foreground. If I wait until later and I'm at f1.4, I'm going to really struggle to get that foreground in focus. So best to get it done now. I've shot the whole scene now, front to back, foreground, midground, background, all during Blue Hour, and there's a bit more light just to reduce the noise a little bit. So now it's really just a waiting game. It's about 10:30. I think I got about 2 hours to wait up here. I mean, it's not a bad place to wait. So I've left the older 6D kind of quite close to the water there. It's getting splashed on pretty heavily and I don't think it's enjoying it. Playback button's not working very well. Hopefully it stays alive long enough to capture the stars. As time went on and this camera got wetter and wetter, more and more of the buttons just stopped working entirely. Specifically, the play button and the zoom button were two that I really needed. The zoom button meant I couldn't zoom in on live view to get a really good focus on the stars. And with the playback button not really working, it meant reviewing my images was almost impossible. As I didn't want to move the tripod, I took plenty of different images, all at different exposures, slightly different focusing areas, all in the hope that I would get what I needed. In fact, what I started doing was leaving the camera on the tripod, shooting a bunch of images, taking out the SD card from my 6D, putting it into my R6 and then reviewing the images on there, seeing if I got close to what I needed, and then if not, going back and switching the memory card back and shooting again. Obviously that wasn't ideal, but I think I managed to get away with it. Here's the final result.
This image is made up of 4 focus stacks for the foreground and background, automatically focus stacked in Photoshop. I then used 3 other layers to blend in lights on the highway, to get car light trails and the street lights. And finally, there was one last image used for the sky. Even though the stars weren't perfectly sharp, they were pretty close given the circumstances.
I did also end up shooting a panorama with my R6 just in case, and to get that wider field of view. Unfortunately, that doesn't have the focus stacked foreground shot during blue hour, but I think it turned out pretty good. I have to say I am pretty happy with the results of that shoot. It was great to actually photograph a concept and an idea that I'd had in my head for a little while and have it turn out so well. One thing as well is I have never seen an astrophotography image from this location, and getting an original composition in Banff National Park is pretty difficult nowadays. So let me know what you think in the comments of those images. Once again, if you want to support the channel or you're coming to shoot in Banff National Park and want to know more about this location, check out those location guides in the description below. But once again, thank you so much for watching and hopefully I will see you on the next one.